mark once it's good to go. And then we'll move from there. If you are just hopping on and wondering what's going on, this is a ton of Open Studio. This is a nightly mix feedback and technical support stream. You can reach out and drop tracks to atonuvrecords at gmail.com, and we'll go from there. Usually I've got like a nice camera, and then I've got my display capture, but I've got some iLock stuff happening, so I had to switch computers, and I've got like some OBS stuff happening, and display capture isn't working, but I still definitely wanted to do the stream. So I'm all set to listen and give feedback, but it's going to look a little scuffed tonight. So my apologies, folks. And once again, for about the next 10 minutes, we're just going to get set up and get ready to go. And Synux is in chat. That's awesome. I've got your latest master, so I will take a look at that first when I start getting into stuff, which is in about 8 minutes. I think I will start diving into stuff. And for anyone joining in, this is a ton of Open Studio. I'm here nightly at 6 p.m. Eastern. Tracks can get sent to atonuvrecords at gmail.com. And that's basically how it works. As far as other like housekeeping and general info stuff, first off, I'm going to keep saying it. I've got an iLock stopped working, so I had to switch computers for the night. So I'm dealing with like rerouting all of my stuff, and so I'm stuck using a laptop camera, and the display capture isn't working. So normally I would have like some visual feedback and some meters running while I listen to stuff, but that is not looking like it is a go for this evening. So apologies for the decline in visual quality, but we will still do solid audio feedback here. So there is that. And then just the general, I really appreciate that folks have been sharing the link to this stream. Basically, the more people that we have in here, the more stuff we can listen to and the more that we can dial in. So definitely appreciate everyone on that end. Like, big thumbs up. There is also a Patreon that does exist, which is super helpful to kind of like keep this going on the daily schedule. So also very big appreciation for all of you on that. And as far as like you might be wondering, what is this? Who is this guy? I'm Scott Murphy. I run Atonuv out of Detroit. I'm an audio engineer. I do mixing, mastering, live sound when there isn't a global pandemic happening. And I am doing this stream because I really, really love music and open source knowledge. So this seemed like a really, really good way to kind of combine a bunch of things that I love. And that's why I'm doing this. So at any time, you can send stuff to atonuvrecords at gmail.com. We're going to be starting to go through tracks in 5 minutes. I've got a few tracks so far today. And generally speaking, how this stream works is I start going into stuff about 10 minutes in, and then I go through whatever's been sent in throughout the day, and then stuff that kind of filters in while I'm going through those other tracks. And in a perfect world, when this stream is like really... Okay, Mike's quiet. Thanks for the heads up. Sorry, I've got this all dialed in on in the other world. How is that mic now? Okay, great. Yeah, just let me know. I had to do a quick like reset up from the usual streaming stream for tonight and probably the next couple of nights because I had an iLock die, and so when that happens, everything is gone. So uh so yeah, if I have any sort of technical stuff on my end, just let me know in chat because I'm definitely just like plugging cables in and hoping that everything works. So I'm doing my own tech support tonight. All right, so hopefully that mic is better. And yeah, so we are about 3 minutes away from feedback starting. And if you want to send in a track, you can send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com, and I will take a listen on stream. If you've got something that you feel like it is in a demo stage, or it's really rough, or it's totally done and you're about to release it and you don't want it to get leaked, I can mute it on stream so that it doesn't go out to the entire world. Just make sure you make a note in the email and I will accommodate that. All right. And yeah, this is Atonuv Open Studio, nightly mix feedback, 6 p.m. Normally we've got like a dialed in, like well lit shot of me and a display capture, but I am dealing with some technical issues of my own for the time being. So we're going to be looking a little rough tonight. Apologies for that situation. Okay, so it's a great time to start. I'm going to go ahead and get size track loaded up. Yeah, I mean it's always it's the road, like when you're working road crew, the saying is always 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So it is always good to have a backup for whatever you're doing. And hey, Oscar, what's up? You're over in. I read, just so everyone knows too. I read chats out loud, so that I can keep track of where everything is, and also that everyone else can, because there is a pretty big delay on stuff. So sometimes I sound like a little bit of a repetitive robot. But Oscar, what's up? If you want to send in something, just send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com, and I will get to your track. So here we go. I am grabbing this next track right now. Here we go. I can download this file. That's awesome. Hey, Sai, it's unable to access your track. I'm getting a download error. Maybe. Nope. It is not loving my existence. Is there another platform you could get me that track on? Okay, thanks. Oh, cool. And we've got a track coming in from David, Vault Music. That's always a good time. So I'm going to look out for that. And right now we're just dealing with a access thing on the first track of the night. So we're going to get that dialed in, and then I will be listening to stuff. Yeah, and as people are coming in, so this is Atonuv Open Studio. This is a spot where you can send tracks for mix feedback, technical support. We dial in, like, maybe you're in a weird listening environment that could get tightened up, or some cool compression tricks that comes up quite often. Uh, and you can send tracks to atonuvrecords at gmail.com, and I will take a listen on stream, and we can dial in tracks back and forth in chat. You can always feel free to ask a question in chat. Now, for tonight and probably the next couple of nights, I'm dealing with my primary system being down, so I've got this like laptop webcam thing hooked up, so we're a little bit scuffy than I normally like to be, but I can still, play stuff back in the room and get a good, we can still do the technical stuff. So I'm sorry, I usually have like some cool graphs going while your track plays, but that'll be back. All right. And if you have sent a track already, just be sure to let me know that you're here in chat so that I can, put you up to the front of the line so that we can dial in your stuff while you're actually here. So just, shout yourself out if you've sent something and you're here. We are going to get into Synux's track. We're just doing getting a Dropbox link. Here we go. This is definitely going to work. Good old Dropbox. And so everyone knows, this track we took a look at a couple of nights ago. And I have to sign into Dropbox. All right. So we took a look at this track a couple of nights ago. There were just some frequency spectrum issues in the low end and some loudness targets to hit. And then we chatted over email to get it sitting in a nicer place, which I think is just really cool about this stream. There's a lot of opportunities to do back and forths with people and get tracks to, really come out sounding better in just a couple of nights. So that's been super cool on my end to see that happen. So we're going to take another look at this track. And 80 megabytes to go. And yeah, using a different setup than I usually do tonight, so if levels are weird or anything, just let me know in chat. I've got the primary setup pretty dialed in, and believe it or not, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I feel a little bit, you know, I feel a little naked just being without my, like, primary controls. So just let me know if anything's not quite hitting right on your end, and I will, do a quick tighten up over here. All right, that track exists. Let's grab it. Okay. All right. That is much, much, much better than the last time that I heard it. So, uh, what I would say is, I mean, first off, it's much, 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 much better. This is definitely crammed to the absolute max. Like, you found kind of the uh like everything below 100, it's still overrepresented, but it's not crushing your mix anymore. So I would say that I would put a word of caution on everything below 100, and in the future, I bet you could further define the roles between low-end elements and get an even better result, but this is very good. So I just want to plant a seed for the future that that there's still a little more that could happen down there, but it is so much better than what I last heard. And what we've got out of this is it's so much louder in its perceived loudness because we're not getting flooded in that below 100 region anymore. So the mids and the upper mids have room to pop, and now it is a louder, more detailed track, and it sounds much more pro. And that's mostly what I would want the takeaway. Oh, and you totally cleaned up that vocal. It sounds much less artificial and hyped, and it sits way better in the mix. So that's awesome. Really good work with that. Yeah, I mean, it's basically you addressed everything that we talked about last time, and as a result, it is a much better mix. Same thing with loudness. It is pinned right to the edge. I would hit that limiter. I mean, it would probably be a matter of like dialing in your master chain and exactly how you are getting loudness. It's like we would want to just loosen up on that dynamic range, like the teeniest, tiniest bit, and that's going to go back like a little bit into the mixing, like just reduce, like taking your threshold up like a click on every single individual track, and then being really, really gentle on the master. There is room for this track to breathe a little bit more, but it's no longer a problem. I just think that you would I would reckon that this could get a little bit more open, and that you would be pretty happy with how it came out. But I mean, that said, this is like, it's very clean. I'm not hearing any artifacts or clipping or anything. You dialed in a really, really clean final product, and I am being so nitpicky at this point, which is, I mean, it's literally my job to be this nitpicky. So without having it under my fingers, it's just a matter of dialing in, like, it's literally like a notch in each direction is going to get this a little more open and defined, while still having that like really, really, really big tight low end. So, this is a 98% very, very passing grade. Yeah, absolutely. You made all sorts of great calls. And yeah, using the definitely an SSL is a great call on this track, and dialing that in and sending that makeup to the limiter in the master. This is the right move. Everything is really, really, really good here. So I don't want to like just cork sniff for 20 minutes. I could, but all in all, this is really good. This is an incredible first work. Okay, And great question. What are my thoughts on compressor makeup versus limiter gain? I want to get, especially if I'm using like a character compressor, I want to get as much clean, nice volume out of the compressor as opposed to making a limiter do a bunch of work. Like, I'm going to push my compressor into my limiter more than I'm going to raise gain on my limiter, mostly because I edge towards like organic warm, like, warm. I want things to sound really, really natural, and I just find that is a better way of grabbing it. I especially love like very Mew makeup. It sounds really, really nice like almost every single time. Though that's not appropriate for like something like this heavy necessarily. So I mean, I think he did awesome. And yeah, so I'm bouncing between Twitch and YouTube. I'm gonna go over to YouTube, and yeah, you should absolutely be best friends with David. We're gonna get to one of his tracks probably next, and yeah. And I saw someone new pop in, Snare Dog. Thanks for popping in. This is Atonuv Open Studio. I'm doing this at 6 p.m. Eastern nightly. People can send tracks to atonuvrecords at gmail.com. We'll take a listen and do some live feedback and mix diagnosis. Synux sent this track in a couple of nights ago, did some fixes, and now it is just way, way better. So this is kind of the stream in action. If you have sent me a track and you're here, just send, give me a note in chat so that I can get to it. The next one, I'm going to go ahead and download David's track. And then as far as notes on it, you've been working on a club track. It's still a work in progress. And David is really, really cool about sending stuff. Like, he has sent in like really, really like just like sketches, like a minute here and there, all the way up to final masters. And it's really cool when people do this to like really, really like see a mix happen over a few days. So this is a work in progress, so everyone knows. So David is looking for general feedback. You're concerned with the kick and getting it to sit properly. You're looking for squelchy and tight. Okay, cool. It's doing, it's also a sub. Okay, so you've got it kind of sitting in like sub kick bass range. So you've got a lot depending on this kick. So let's see what we can do to make it really, really cool. Builds and drops are close, but could do with tightening up. Cool. Let's take a listen to this track. So I'm going to go ahead and load this up. And yeah, if anyone wants to send something in, you can send it to atonuvrecords at gmail.com. And just shout yourself out in chat so that I know you're here. And we are going to take a look at a track from Vault Music right now. Awesome. Okay. This is another great track. Uh so okay. I have to it's sometimes it's hard when something is really really good. Uh I'm going to I'm going to help you out on a few things, but I just got to say wow, really 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 good track. Now, to kind of, I also want to catch up with chat really quick. So Ian pointed out YouTube seems to be streaming better than Twitch at the moment. So if you're on Twitch and it's giving you issues, you can hop over to the YouTube stream if you search Atonuv Open Studio. So if it's being weird or glitchy, just pop on over. And Discord server. I actually set up a Discord for this reason. So far, nobody is on it. I just made it a few nights ago, but I was thinking it would be cool to have a hub because this is already there's like 20 people probably like regularly showing up within the community, but it is such a solid group of people, so I figured should make a Discord so that people can share tracks and do like even more support and feedback. So just email me if you want an invite to the server, and I'll get you on board. You'll be the first few people for the moment, and we will figure that out. Also, if anyone has like Discord experience and wants to be a mod, that would be awesome because I don't really know much beyond like I should make a Discord. Okay. Discord, very cool. David, this track rules. I totally see where you're at with this kick. You have really good separation of like sub bass and kick. This is very good. That's going to get you. That's the hard stuff. Now we got to figure out how to make this kick a little more exciting. The kick has very good presence at 60, but then it's like, okay, how do we keep this squelchy and tight, like you're saying? And I have 2 ideas to play with, kind of 3 ideas. The most straightforward one is vaguely risky. It's I wouldn't normally do this with a kick, but in the context of the track, and because it's trying to kind of be the bass, like you mentioned, I would toss a pull tech on this kick and try and see what happens if you give it a little boost at 500 or 700. Give that kick some mid-range, and that's going to make it more present in the mix and kind of like bring out some of its more aggressive attributes. And I think this might work because when you're trying to get like bass guitar to sit in a mix, it's like pull tech on 500, 700 is gonna do the thing, and I kind of wonder if it's gonna do the thing for you. So that is the most like engine like that's gonna be the quickest thing to try, and it might just open up your whole mix. But also, it is very possible that that is just gonna overwhelm your mid range and like make stuff collapse. So definitely be very careful about it and be aware of what's happening in that region. But in the case of it might work. Now, the other stuff that I would look at is 8K is like always like a thing that you can do to add some liveliness to the kick. So you could just try that. Instead of just like boosting 8K, you could grab another sample, like a beater sample, something that naturally has some like upper mids, 8K, and even like some of that 700, and you could layer that in with the kick so that we have like a more extended kick relationship. And then you just got to make sure, like pick a great sample, phase align it with your initial kick, and then see if that does the thing. So it's kind of like the big engineering perspective on this is like the kick needs more mid-range in some sort of way, and it could be as simple as boosting it on the kick itself or taking another sample and layering it with the kick. And then you could go so wacky as to grab a sample that has nothing to do with a kick. It could be like, something scraping against something that's a little more excited in the upper mids, but then just very carefully blend that into the kick, trigger it at the same time and blend it in so that we get the illusion of a kick that's extending all the way in to the upper mids. Okay. So you have a top kick on it. It's not doing a lot. You don't want a bright kick. Yeah, so I would focus, if you don't want it to be bright, let's focus in that 500 to 1K range, which is not where we would normally place a kick, but I know that you're trying to do something a little bit different with this track, and that might be where it could live. Yeah, I'm not always like a huge I am not like a big fan of like overly clicky kicks, but I know that it like gets the point across. So something mid-range focused is that's going to be out of left field, but there's room for it in the track, and I know what you're trying to do with the kick. You're definitely trying to do something new and exciting. So it's like, if you're trying to do something new and exciting, let's do something new and exciting. Let's blow up the mids a bit on that kick. So, but I mean, the mix rules, and as is, you could print that and it would be great. But I see where you're at on on trying to get that to really cut through. Cool. And Ian just asked thoughts on sub-synth on kick. So like uh I'm assuming that you're talking about like kind of like the classic like DBX voice of God, like uh I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, you can kind of like artificially add even lower end on kick. Uh my thoughts on it is sometimes it is good. Like all things, like sometimes it's good. It really depends on the mix. It makes a lot of sense, like where we saw a lot of that happen were like rock mixes in the 80s, where there wasn't like sub bass getting played on bass guitar, and like it was kind of like pre synthesizers. So it makes sense in the context, especially of a rock mix, where we can get some like subsonic bass low end out of the kick. And then that said, you got to really, really make sure that you're not swamping. Be very, like, the general rule is be very careful with anything below 40. Because as we go lower down the frequency spectrum, it takes more energy to reproduce that sound, which means that we are going to eat up headroom faster, and speakers will run out of their own personal energy to recreate your track. So the more stuff that we have lower in the spectrum, the harder that everything needs to work to make your music play. So, you know, 40 and below, especially 30 and below, it's great to have that, you know, especially in modern mixes and modern music, it's great to have that rumble, but be very, very, very careful that you are not absolutely flooding your mix with that range, because you're going to run into technical playback issues. And also, it's really, really easy to not hear what it's doing. You're just going to like blow up down in that region, and then you're going to get like, if your mixing environment isn't dialed in, and even if your mixing environment is dialed in, it's still like that like 20 to 40 octave is, it's not, you probably don't have accurate playback of it. So you're definitely mixing a little bit blind in that region, and it's really, really easy to just swamp your mix with it. So definitely cool to do things like that, but like with an extreme degree of caution. That's this is like straight up like Boy Scout audio. All right. So I just got a track from Scarholm, who I haven't seen in a really long time. Awesome to hear from you again. Definitely shout out in chat that you're here. Very cool. I have a track from Ian, and I know that you've been in for a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to play the new mix from Ian, and then I'm going to get into Scarholm's track. If you have something, you can send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. This is a nightly stream. It's at 6 p.m. Eastern. And you can send stuff to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. And this is what we do. We take a listen. I dial in some feedback. You can send stuff in night after night and really get your mix working for you. I will take the opportunity to say there is a Patreon. It's like Patreon/Atonuv, and one of the things that you get for your patronage is a nightly shout out, and I have to make my text box. for this system. 1 second, y'all. So actually, I just got to see who all is on. We got some new ones. So 1 second, y'all. And then we're getting right back into feedback. All right. So we have Elias and Synux, new to the Patreon. Thank you very much. And Mason and Tyler continuing to keep this thing going. Big appreciation to you. So thank you. This was your nightly Patreon shout out. Oh, Scarholm, you're Oscar. Right on. Very cool. Just gonna get rid of this floating text. All right. So Ian is up next. This is really cool. We're on I think the third revision on this track. It was good the first time, and then it got way better. Just from getting the bass to sit in the right place, really. And it just opened up the stereo field and just made everything really, really made everything really pop. And then last night we talked a lot about rear bus compression, and this got added to the mix. And Ian says that it sounds fuller, which is exactly what we should be going for with the rear bus. So I bet it worked. And then Ian had a couple of questions. You've got a few things on your mix bus affecting the overall sound. Very light SSL compression, 2 dB of gain reduction in the loudest parts. You have some EQ and a Fairchild for color, not using the compressor. Would you suggest removing these from the mix bus when I send the final mix to a mastering engineer? So what I would do is, first off, what you have on your mix bus is very much so color stuff, like the Fairchild, whatever EQ you did, and even that light SSL squeeze. To a large degree, that is like the sound of your mix. And if you like take those things off and you don't like your mix anymore, then those are part of your mix. And that's what you want to send over to your mastering engineer, and evaluate it from there. Now, if I was mastering this, what I would want from you is, first off, tell me that you have that stuff on your bus so that I know what's happening. 'Cause like if you already have an SSL doing 2 dB of gain reduction, that's kind of like what the mastering compressor would be at. So, on my end, I might just not hit it with another compressor, or I'm going to ask you to take that off, maybe. The EQ, if it like got your mix to be where you want your mix to be, then that's your mix. And then the Fairchild, that's a color move, so keep it for sure. Okay. I am super excited to hear this mix.
I've got these kicks and another couple tricks for you, my guy. And we just said it one time, fees you can buy and get one free, my guy. All those other kids won't square, you'll get all the wanted stars, my guy. Why aren't you perfect? You could be perfect. Why aren't you perfect? You could be perfect. It's your age to find your face, lines like an interstate, don't shine from day. So buy this cream for me, you'll see in all your friends will see your holiday. What's that you say? You want a more realistic way? I got oils, I got herbs, got SPF 90 even higher, they all work fine. Why aren't you perfect? You should be perfect. Why aren't you perfect? You should be Don't let your days go by. Don't let your days go by. Don't let your days go by. Don't let your days go. Don't let this deal go by. Don't let this Why aren't you perfect? You should be perfect. Why aren't you perfect? You should be
Okay. It is fuller, bigger, smackier, huger, rockier than it was last night. So that is achieved. The only things that I want to talk about are definitely just taste things at this point. So and yeah, I mean David's totally right. Like the definitely maybe is totally like it has a lot of similar stuff. Not in a like samey way, but the vibe is definitely there. Okay. So as this mix stands, I know that you are like done with it. And I know that you've been pushing your DSP to the absolute max to make this happen. So I understand where you're at. And I just want to address a couple of like taste things that are definitely not prescriptive because like all of the problems are solved in this mix. I generally like a little more to like that 200 region on a snare to just kind of like punch. That is like my least thing. That's just like what I would do. But bah, don't worry about that. What I'm concerned about is the last minute. Like after the breakdown and everything comes back for that last bridge and chorus on the way out. It definitely works, but I want you to be aware that everything is definitely a bit buried under the rhythm guitars. And if it is purposeful and it's what you want, then awesome. Like that is a vibe and it is a thing, but also depending on like listening environment and what you are and where your perspective is on the mix, sometimes things like this are easy to get lost in. So just be aware that like on that last bridge and chorus, the vocals are notched a pretty significant way behind the rhythm guitars, and then that last guitar solo is definitely tucked below the rhythm guitars. So I am definitely like the melody is the thing that goes, cuz I'm kind of a basic I'm a basic person. So that's why I bring it up at all. And if I was to address it, I would just like on those rhythm guitars bring, that 1 to 2K just down a couple of notches, and then let the vocal and that guitar solo ride in that pocket. But that is, once again, only a taste thing. And if you're going for a little bit of a buried thing on that last little bit, totally cool. Yeah, but that's it. You've got this dialed in. This is a super awesome song. The mix is great. This is really gonna, it's gonna turn out great. Really, really cool stuff. All right. If you are watching and joining in, this is Atonuv Open Studio. You can send tracks to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. I am here nightly at 6 p.m. Eastern. And you can send stuff in. We can do, nightly mix feedback, so on and so forth. Really, really, really cool to be here. So next up, we've got a track from Oscar, who I have not seen in a really long time. It is good to see you. My internet is back up and running, so the stream exists again. Cool to have you back. And, while my internet was down, Oscar sent me a track that sounded really great, and you should definitely feel free to spam that in chat every now and then. Really, really huge step forward in your whole production quality. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and take a listen to this next track, looking for general feedback. Let's see how it goes. Oh, and I know Oscar likes it when I talk a little bit over some of it so that it doesn't get like stream sniped, so I will make sure to do that. Here we go. Okay, just a little bit of talking over this intro. And right here. Good stuff. Okay, Oscar has hooks for days, as always. Uh, Great track, great arrangement, and I just gotta say, your production quality has really, really increased over the last few months, and it was kind of a perpetual thing where you weren't filling in like the upper mids and the top end, and you are way more conscious of that, and it is really paying off. The mix sounds huge. uh and I am mostly concerned with, as far as like just frequency technical stuff. Your vocal is a bit boxy, and it's overrepresented in like the 500 to 1K. I think there's some pokey stuff at about 700, and if that got dialed back, now that said, it could just be as simple as the vocal is just a little bit too hot. Um, the That is also possible. You might just grab it and just grab the whole thing down 2 dB so that it sits just a little bit more in the mix. It would still definitely be forward at that point. And then it might just blend in. See if you can pull it back just a little bit. Okay, it's an iPhone vocal, right on. So that is, it's shockingly good for that situation. I would definitely focus in on that vocal. It's specifically in that 500 to 1K range. So when we are in 500 to 1K, we can like find the things that are notching like out of the mix and poking out, or sometimes just bring that fader down. And yeah, Ian's right, it is weighted to one side. So that's a thing to be aware of for sure. But as this stands, this is a solid composition. It sounds really good. Just dial in something on that vocal, or maybe if you're still in the process of writing that, it might be worth re-recording that vocal, because that's the only, everything else just sounds amazing. Cool. Oh, and Ian just became a patron, so thank you. You missed shout out time, but you will get that shout out every night for forever. Thank you very much. Always appreciated. Now, okay, so this is Atonuv Open Studio. This is a nightly mix feedback technical support stream that happens at 6 p.m. Eastern. Feel free to send stuff to atonuvrecords@gmail.com at absolutely any time. As it stands, the only track that I have left that got sent was from Rada. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, Rada. If you are here, I'll dial it in. You sent a SoundCloud link, and just with the way that everything is routed around here, and to get the best experience, I definitely would love a file if you've got it and you're here. It just works better on all ends. Okay, so Oscar has a question. Do I think the track could be done as is, or do you think you should add more vocals? The performance was spot on from the vocalist. You didn't achieve the same magic when we recorded in the studio. Okay, this is a great question. Performance matters more than sound quality. Absolutely. Like, your instinct on this is correct. If you got a better performance and a better vibe on the track recording it on your iPhone than you did at a fancy studio, then you got to go with that good performance, and then you got to just engineer it so that so that it could work. So I think that this vocal take could work if you get, it is specifically between 500 and 1K that we got some weird boxy stuff. You got to go in with kind of a fine-tooth comb and figure that out. You could get a great vocal out of this. You could consider doing some like double-tracked vocals to kind of flesh it out and add more, add a little more to it. Now, that said, when we do double-track vocals, we are going to be you would have to be very, very careful with your EQ on that, because the more that we layer up sounds, the more that we have in the low mids and the mids, which is where we're already overrepresented. But that said, if you were really, really, really careful about it, you could layer on more vocals and just be really, really try to grab some nice sounds in the mid-range, and you could kind of fluff it out where it's pokey. You could kind of spread the love and make up for it. It could also turn into a mess. It's really going to depend on how you capture it. You know, you're going to want to like treat your room with whatever you can. Like if you've got a bunch of heavy blankets and that's all you've got, you got to use them. See if you can like borrow a microphone from somebody, or if all you got is an iPhone, you just got to figure out like where is the best place to put this iPhone to capture that vocal, because this track is really, really close, and I would hate for it to not exist just because you can't grab like the perfect vocal in the perfect place. So I would definitely play with it and see what you can do. This is an idea worth pursuing and seeing through to the end. And then as far as like when is it done, that's absolutely up to you. You know, that is the artist's dilemma. Okay, folks. If you are in chat and you have sent me a track, or you want to send a track, just, say hi in chat and I will get to it while you are here. The only thing that I have in my inbox that I haven't gone through yet is Rada's track, and I would really love to get the actual file with my current like loop back setup. I just don't think I'm going to be able to accurately listen to it live. All right. And if you're wondering what's up, this is a Ton of Open Studio. This is nightly stream. It's at 6 p.m. Eastern. And I had to take a little bit of time off because of some internet stuff, but we are getting right back into the swing of it. I have this came up earlier in this stream. I set up a Discord that it doesn't have anybody on it as of this moment, but if you want to get on it, and then y'all can start to like share tracks and stuff like throughout the day, and kind of work within the community, because this is an awesome community of musicians. I figured it'd be cool to have that available. So just send me an email if you want an invite to that server, and we can start utilizing that as well. So that's kind of new news. Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. This is the stream. I've gone through all the tracks that I have. If you've got something, feel free to send it in. You can usually count on, once this is back up and running, in full steam ahead, basically the format is I go through the tracks that I've got, and then any tracks that come in while I'm going through them, and then I end the stream. So you can watch the replay, which is hosted on YouTube, and then know that you can start from about the 10-minute mark of the video to the end, and it's just feedback. But for the next little bit, while we get the community kind of all back together, I'm going to kind of camp on stream and see who comes on, et cetera, et cetera. So a little bit of stream camping at the moment. I also I know that people have been sharing this link around, and I really, really appreciate it. That's what makes this work. So whenever you can, just do a link share here and there. Like, comment, and subscribe, et cetera, et cetera. The more people that we have on a regular basis, the more that you know the more content there is to go through from audio engineering stuff. And as always, feel free to drop a question in chat at any time. Cool. Ian's got another track from another artist. I am totally down to listen. I will definitely hang out while you bounce that down. Oh, and Elias, I missed you on the Twitch chat from like a really long time ago, but yeah, layering like a chopped and saturated like cowbell or something with kicks is a great idea. Something with a big transient response that you could also saturate in the mids and upper mids is absolutely always a cool move to bring out, like to bring attention to a kick uh, with just something with a really, really, really sharp response. And that's also a way to get, like, we want the ear to pick up on the idea that the kick exists. And if we keep it to just the transient, we can make the ear perk up at the kick without it feeling like it's bright. If we're just trying to get the impact of like a cowbell. So yeah, absolutely solid move. Uh, so that's from like almost an hour ago, but you were right. When you're right, you're right. All right. So this is a ton of open studio. Feel free to send tracks to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. I am waiting on a track to get bounced down and sent over right now. So we're just kind of hanging out until then. Feel free to drop a question in chat if you've got one. Just hanging for a minute. All right. 10 seconds away from some audio content. All right. This is a ton of open studio. This is a nightly stream. I start at 6 p.m. Eastern. People can send in tracks to atonuvrecords at gmail.com, and I will take a listen and offer some top-down style mix feedback and technical support, and we talk about like different audio and mixing techniques on stream. And yeah, you can send stuff to atonuvrecords at gmail.com. I am almost close to having another track get sent over. It's getting bounced down. Here we go. Okay, so this is from Ian. You bought new monitors a month ago and you haven't listened to it since then, so hopefully it's not too rough. That's awesome. I love to live a little dangerously. What monitors did you get? Just curious. Oh, nice. The Focal Solo 6s. Those are, if those are. Oh, yeah, those are great. Nice choice. Yeah, room treatment is definitely more beneficial. You know, you could have like a $1 million speaker, and it won't do you that much good in an untreated room. Dialing in a room is you can do it like on the easy and semi cheap with a few. I don't know if you've caught. This is another thing. I generally wind up talking about rear bus and then a general checklist of dialing in a room on the for bang for the buck. I don't know if you've caught that on stream, but I'll happily go through it again. But that definitely exists. That is eventually going to be like a meme. I talk about it a lot. All right, got that track downloaded. But I am serious. If you want like some room treatment tips, I'm happy to go through it. Let's take a listen to this track.
slide beneath the trees. The whole world spins right by. You tell me what you need, just a little room to breathe, but it hurts my pride. And you cry. And you and I both ricochet. My heart is like an ocean. Your heart is frozen still. But I waited all night for one word from you. Waited for nothing. Coming up from the ground, the sun shines through the morning haze. It's not that we're at all the same, it's just that it's a single shadow we make just before we wake. It all begins to ricochet.
Well, dang, that is a really, really nice song. Big like Flaming Lips vibes. Love the arrangement, love the song, love everything about it. Um, if I was to be like, the thing that matters is if a song is good. So, as far as dialing in this mix, it is definitely heavy at 60 on the kick, and that is probably a room thing, and it's also a separation thing. You've got like some sub bass from the synth that is also right around that 60. It's also under the kick, but that's pretty well contained, like the 40 to 20 range. I think it's pretty nicely represented in the spectrum. It's that we're just so heavy at 60, which is probably a combination of some room issues and then also the kick fighting that synth a little bit. So that's low end stuff, but that's like pretty easy. I mean, I would even just like maybe like dial that kick back a couple of notches. It's very heavy, which then that's going to lead into the next round of things on the mix. It's like really, really heavy there, and then it's like pretty scoopy in the mids. And I would want to just warm up everything. Okay, so to catch up to chat, you were wondering about putting the bass under the kick for the song. Drummer is jazzy. Is that a faux pas in 2020? Not necessarily. It's just that as it is right now, the kick is really, really, really heavy at 60, like very, very heavy at 60. And then it's so heavy that I couldn't really tell you what is up or down from that moment. I can just say, like, kick is heavy at 60. Putting the bass below that wouldn't give much room for the bass. And then it's gonna, we would really need to find something to put like in that 100 to 200 range. You could like make the kick live at 90. That is like an old like rocker trick. That's like throaty kick. I would say that to directly answer your question, is that a faux pas in 2020? It kind of is. Like, if you are trying to purely, like, that doesn't mean that it's bad, okay? But if you're purely like, I want this to be a modern mix, I want it to sound like 2020, then it's like, it's kick and then bass. Like, you're going to hear that on a lot of stuff, or you're going to hear kick sandwich, on like trap and hip hop and pop, where you've got like kick, sub bass below the kick, and then bass above the kick. So kick sandwich is in play. You do not get a lot of kick over bass purely. It just doesn't happen that much. It is a valid move for sure. You can have nice, clean, defined low end when you do it. But just in the direct question of, does that make sense within the zeitgeist? I would caution against it, or make a kick sandwich. But this kick, too heavy at 60, regardless of where the kick is going to live in relation to bass. And then what's going to happen when you drop that kick back into a reasonable place is you're going to feel like you've lost all of the power in your mix. I guarantee it. Like, you're going to take that away and go, ooh, nothing is happening anymore. And it's because you were getting so much of the punch and definition and power from 60 hertz. And there is a lack of info from 100 to 1K, where you're going to want to redistribute some of the frequency wealth into that region once that kick goes away. And that's how you're going to get the kick to sit in a nice place, and also get this mix just a little bit like fuller and more powerful and perceived to be louder. The vocal is overrepresented in the upper mids, which is like definitely really, really close to where it should be, especially because it has that like flaming, like I'm just like flaming lips when I hear this. And Flaming Lips vocals are definitely up in there too, but it's pushing on, like, we definitely have a lot of S's overrepresented because we're so hot from 3 to 6K on the vocal. So there is some room to kind of scoot and redistribute the vocal down a little bit in the spectrum to fill out that mid range, and then probably all of the instruments. We could get some woodier textures on the drums too. We could give like some snare, some body in the mids, and just like everyone, like you take that kick down, and then you start to give everyone some shape in the mid range, and then this is going to be a really, really, really big mix. And I'm not talking about dramatic moves. I'm talking about like 3 dB down at 60, and then like 3 dB up at 100, 3 dB up at 500, 3 dB up at 700. And you could just like do all of this. You could strap a Pultec on your buses and just use basically the frequency. This is why I love analog style EQs. You don't have to go and sweep around and go like, oh, where's the junk? Where's the bad stuff? Just use an analog guy, and they have those frequencies marked for a reason, because they mean something. So just throw on one of those and then just kind of go through your mid-range clicks and go like, give some love here, give some love there, and the mix will work better for you, and it'll come out doing, because we're really overrepresented at 60. We're kind of overrepresented from 3 to 6K, and then we have everything shaving off after about 6K, 8K. So, that could get tamed, and then it could get a little bit brighter above there to get some air on it. That's if we want to go like super, super modern on the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. Now, as far as your room, because it's like there's some mixed stuff happening here. We've got like maybe some bass interfering with the kick, et cetera, et cetera. You just got new monitors. I bet that there is also a degree of room stuff happening. So you've got a weird L-shaped room, and you're concerned that it won't work. You can make any shaped room work with a little bit of like ingenuity and like learning learning your room. But also, to get to chat, any tips on breathing life into the guitars? They sound kind of dull and have some room noise. Well, what I can tell you is the trick to like guitars sound dull is it's the Chris Lord-Alge thing. It's 7K on an SSL. You can boost that on a guitar, and it's going to be the reason it works is because where the brightness is on an electric guitar, and guitars in general, even acoustics, the brightness is in that 3 to 5K range, but and then it's like fizz from 10K and above. 7K is right in between those 2 points, and you can boost that, so you're going to gently lift that like crucial 3 to 6K, but with a gentle bell, and then it kind of spreads it out, and we avoid the stuff that we don't want to boost. 7K, really, really good for guitars. So that's where I would start. Let me listen specifically to it's also like this song is so good. It was like hard to be super objective on the whole thing. I was just like, this vibe rules. So let's listen to these guitars. Yeah, try out 7K. 7K SSL style EQ, and I'm also wondering, in your mixing hygiene, so you're concerned that they have room noise. Are you soloing stuff a lot? I'm going to let that hang out because we're on the delay, but that's I yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh okay. So you solo when you're trying to get a specific sound from a thing, not when balancing, trying to break the habit. Yeah, work on breaking that habit. That's going to get you better mixes faster. Um, whatever we're trying to shape an instrument, we want to shape it within the context of the mix. It is so tempting to solo something and then, but the problem is that first off, we're not listening in the context of the mix, and also we're going to get over concerned with things that are also just not present in the mix. So it's kind of like we're, shooting targets that aren't there. Um, the more that you get comfortable with grabbing stuff that way and working that way, it just gets easier. So yeah, just try to break the habit. I hear what you mean on those guitars, um, on the intro, but it's definitely gone once the song kicks in. You know, like and that's kind of what I'm feeling like is maybe happening on the mix. I think that there is room tone on those guitars, and so you are very aware that that's there. And then as the song happens and everything is in, and we got drums and vocals and saxophone, like that doesn't matter anymore, but you know that it's there. So it's driving you a little nuts. So only try to address that problem when it's a problem. So on that, what I would do is I would, on that intro, I would automate an EQ to punch in and out, for if you're trying to get rid of that room noise, which it's not egregious. It's not the worst thing that I've ever heard. So you could automate an EQ so that it's like not hyping the upper mids, and that'll make it less apparent. And then you're going to want to hype like 7K to make the guitars bright once they're competing with the rest of the mix. So an automated EQ could take care of a lot of that. If you want to get into like you could try like some noise removal stuff with like an isotope, like spectral analyzer AI plugin. That stuff is cool, and it can totally like save your butt if something is really, really, really bad. But also, like, grain of salt, we didn't have AI plugins for like 60 years, and music was still pretty good. So, sometimes that stuff is overkill, and then it's just going to wind up sounding like kind of weird and artificial. And then you're going to miss the like little bit of noise that was there. But that's kind of like the two moves that I would go for as far as that room tone. There are three moves that I would go for. Automate an EQ, use some sort of like noise suppression algorithm plugin, or three, ignore it. And any of those are valid. So, as far as brightening the guitars, I think that focusing on 7K, especially if you gave a little bit of 7K to the guitars and also moved the vocals a little bit out of that region because they're a little bit overrepresented there, then they're not going to be masking the guitars as much, and the guitars are going to be able to break over the top of the mix a little bit easier. So that's what I'm thinking about on the guitars. And now, okay, your room. So it's L-shaped, it's weird, so on and so forth. What you gotta do is just ignore the L, like wherever it is. So you're gonna want to set up, as far as just dialing in this room. If you want to send dimensions, then I could tell you exactly where to put stuff, but the general philosophy is, first off, get your speakers off of your windowsill. If you just dropped like a portion of money on really, really nice monitors, you got to put them on stands. It's like very boring. It's like you get something and you're like, oh, you get like a nice new mic and you're like, oh, I need a mic stand, and it needs to be a good mic stand that has like shock mounts and stuff. So, first things first, get some monitor stands. And then what you're going to want to do is like pretend like L, the sideways thing just isn't there. Ignore that for now. You're going to want to find the longest wall that exists within your room, and then your speakers are going to fire along that wall. So they're going to be set up on the short wall, and they face the longest wall that you've got. Okay? And then this is a bang for your buck room tuning system, okay? And what you got to do is find your listening point first, which is going to be 30 to 40% of the way back from the front wall. That's where your head is going to live. And then your speakers are going to be an equilateral triangle from like right the back of your head. Okay, you're going to get out a tape measure, you're going to measure. And what you're going to find is that your monitors are going to probably be like closer to your face than you would imagine, but it's going to be the right move. So 30 to 40% of the way back from the front wall, that's where your head lives. 33.3% comes up a lot in room calculators. Speakers live an equilateral distance from the back of your head. Then you're going to do a reflection-free zone between the speakers and your listening point, the back of your head. That's just the easiest way to dial this in. You can make that reflection-free zone with something that you build yourself, like if you get some rock wool or whatever, and you can build your own absorption panels. The only thing that absolutely won't work is like the Auralex like foam guys. That can get flutter echo above 10K, but it's not going to do anything other than that, and that's not what we're concerned about here. So you could build it yourself, and in the prosumer market, you can get pretty good results, even great results with the Prime Acoustic like London room kit, and that can set up a reflection-free zone. So you can get like those room panels, and then just place them between the monitors and your listening point, and that's gonna be the single best thing that you can do in your room. Like it's gonna move the needle the most, for like the least amount of effort and money. After that, you're gonna want to bass trap your front corners. Bass traps are spendier in like acoustic treatment world. You can get like if you want to get something that looks really nice and works really well, the JIK or GIK acoustics, they make like a tri-corner trap, and it's really, really, really nice, and they look really, really, really good. So there's that. If you want to save money and get something that works, the super chunk method works for corners. The reflection-free zone is on the side walls. So that's going to be, you've got the front wall in front of you, and then you set up the RFZ on the side walls between your speakers and your listening point. And now for the bass trapping, if you want to do something that works and won't break the bank, the super chunk method is absolutely viable. That's what I've got going on behind me right here. So it's just literally, it's super chunk because it is chunks of rock wool held in place, and it does the trick. Those are about 8 inches deep, and that makes it happen. And then I've got that on the front wall as well, which you can't see. So we do speaker placement, reflection-free zone, front corner bass trapping, and then we go into and that's going to get you so close to where you need to be. Oh, very important to be centered along the front wall. You want the speakers to be equal distances from the side walls. Reflection-free zone, front bass traps, and then we're going to be looking into like rear wall absorption or diffusion, depending on if you want your room to feel like live or dead. I opted for some diffusion to kind of just feel like I'm in space in this room. This is my mixing room, so I want it to feel a little bit nicer. And then my mastering room is dead in the back. Personal choice. And then like a cloud above your head, kind of along the same, it exists in the same dimensions as your reflection-free zone, except it's centered above your head on the ceiling. And then like trapping every corner in the room if you still have issues. And as far as like if you want to get really, really into this, like you can do, like regardless of what your room is doing, putting your speakers in the right place and then doing a reflection-free zone is definitely going to be the right decision to make, regardless of what your room is doing. Like, there's just no way that that's going to make your room worse. It can only make it better. After you do that, if you want to fight your room with knowledge, then getting a reference mic is a good idea. You can just grab like any reference mic and then run like waterfall tests and pink noise tests, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you can get kind of an idea of what your room is doing. If you want to just have like an easy time in your life, you could get SonarWorks with the reference mic. It does work. And it tells you what you need to do. It's going to give you a reading, and it's going to give you a solid game plan of how to dial in the rest of your room. And then you can also get that last little bit of DSP correction. You want to get your room like within like ±6 everywhere, which is generally achievable on a pretty reasonable budget. If you can get it ±3, then you're hitting like the acoustic fences, and that's pretty sweet when it happens. But then, like, once you hit those thresholds, then you can just pop SonarWorks on, and it's going to correct it to basically where it needs to be. So we're just fighting for, like, a degree of control over our room. And if you just did those first couple of steps, I think that you might find that L isn't messing with you at all. If it is, then you just like put a bunch of absorption on the other end of the L and call it a day, and it should be fine. But you're doing like the stuff that you're doing rocks, and you just got these awesome monitors. So getting a like solid mixing room is absolutely a thing that you should do for yourself. Like, treat yourself to an acoustic environment that rules, because you are doing awesome stuff, and it's just going to get and it's also interesting because I've heard a few of your mixes at this point, and I'm hearing similar things frequency response wise, and like that's the thing. I can always tell that when someone is a very, very good mixer, but they're not mixing in like the perfect space, because I can tell that you're just kind of mixing around like some invisible obstacles, like within your mix. There are points that are underrepresented in a few mixes and points that are overrepresented. Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to send me, just send me some stuff in my email, and I'll take a look at what you've got. And yeah, just using a reference mic and the Room EQ Wizard, that's definitely going to give you a lot of information. We can figure out like how bad your room is, or if it's not that bad. All right, so this is Atonuv Open Studio. This is a nightly stream. It's at 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can send tracks to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. at absolutely any time of the day. And how it generally works is people send me stuff throughout the day. And then on the nightly stream, I load up those tracks, go through them, give some feedback, and, chat with people if they are live in the room with me. And as tracks come in throughout the stream, we go through those as well. We are hitting hour 2 of tonight's stream, so I am gonna start winding down. If anyone has something that they want addressed and they've got it ready to go, or you've got a question, feel free to ask. And if not, I'm going to take off in a few minutes. But it's been awesome hanging out with everybody. Like, seriously, this is such a cool group of people. We heard like 6 tracks tonight, and they were all really, really great. So it's been really, really cool to be on the listening end of everyone's work. This is a great group of folks. I am really, really happy to be here. I'm going to, this is making month 8 or so of pandemic pretty okay, y'all. All right. It's been another great night here. I am going to sign off. I will see everybody tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern. I'll be back. Feel free to send stuff between now and then. And have a great night.